I'm back with another video. This video is going to be looking at the tactics behind arguably the most exciting World Cup final, at least in our lifetime, and if not, all time. And before we get into the tactics and the setup of Argentina and France, check out both my books. They're in the links in the description below. Be sure to check out my new tactics course also in the description, and I'm using Keyframe to make this video. All that in the description, so let's get right into tactics. So we saw Messi and Mbappe go head to head. Mbappe stayed relatively quiet throughout most of the match until the final 15 minutes when his team really needed him, and Messi had a very dominant display in the first half with his Argentina side. So they started the game in a 4-3-3, as they usually do, and that saw a lot of fluidity, starting with DePaul on this right hand side, playing through the half space and having his role be very fluid and versatile, moving forward and backwards in this half space. On the right hand side, his ability to overload the space between the lines or drop deeper and release the fullback in higher areas was crucial for the stability and rotations for this Argentine side. Enzo Fernandez and McAllister were the main central midfielders, usually dropping deeper and staggering their positioning. Now with DePaul, we also have a player who can come deeper and play higher up the field, as well as Alvarez, Messi, and Di Maria occupying this forward line, giving them players who can adequately play between the lines and drop deeper to come and get the ball. We'll also take a quick note of the French shape. Now they started off as they usually do, with Griezmann playing in this higher role and dropping in as a second holding midfielder in an asymmetric 4-4-2 to cover Mbappe on this left hand side to prevent overloads from happening. So with Griezmann playing this role, it created more space between the lines on this left hand side that had them overcompensate, as we see here, with their holding midfielder almost going in line vertically with Griezmann, allowing for Argentina to have more space on this right hand side. Rabiot also had to defend in a wider area, as he's been doing throughout the whole tournament, allowing opportunities to arise for Argentina in possession, especially early on. Now the fluidity of Argentina can be seen right away in the first half. We see their holding midfielder drop deeper and creating a numbers problem against France. So what we see here is when Argentina move deeper, the French players are attracted further forward. Giroud, Mbappe, and Griezmann all attracted to the first line, with the holding midfielder dropping between center defenders. What this creates is the potential for a 4 versus 3 against the midfield line from France. So as we see, the midfielders stay in line with the midfield line of France, creating a 4 versus 3. Now the wide midfielders, DePaul and the fullback on the left, are initially covered by the cover shadows of Mbappe and Griezmann, making them blocked and non-accessible from the ball carriers and the central defenders. But when these players go to jump, they have a 4 versus 3, and through movement and blindside movements from DePaul and his versatility, they were able to get in behind the first line of press and exploit their numbers advantage in the midfield. Then we have our 3 players higher up the field, Alvarez, the fullback, advancing, and Di Maria on this left-hand side, pinning the back 4 from France, so really allowing Argentina to use a makeshift 3-4-3 to create progression in the half spaces and the wider areas. And if they weren't able to exploit the wider areas, there was opportunities with Griezmann jumping between the lines and their staggered midfield, leaving pockets between the lines free for more advanced midfielders like McAllister or players dropping like Messi. And now we'll see another variation to start the game for Argentina. DePaul would drop deeper in the right half space, as we said he would do, as a deep line playmaker, making a makeshift back 3, allowing Enzo Fernandez to stay in the middle and freeing up the right half space for Messi. So when Messi gets in these positions, he creates a strong diagonal passing option between him and the holding midfielder. He's outside the reach of Rabiot, and with the fullback overlapping and Alvarez staying centrally in a higher position, we start to see the collapse of the French's defensive shape in the first half, with Rabiot being drawn to the ball side because of the jumping of Griezmann, and the overload from Argentina on this left hand side gave Messi a lot of space in this right half space for him to receive the ball and turn going forward. So this all starts because Griezmann has to jump to cover for Mbappe, and Rabiot is left with more space than he can cover, allowing Messi to find these pockets and become very dangerous in the first half. So then France changed before the half was over, making two first half substitutions that saw them go into more 4-3-3. This saw Mbappe initially start in a central area, taking Giroud's role and looking to access space more in behind and offer him more fluidity to get him more involved in the game. So then we see in the 4-2-3-1, Griezmann plays more as a number 10, Rabiot drops deeper to form more of a double pivot and offering more defensive structure on the left and the right, preventing the half spaces from becoming so accessible for this Argentina side. Then their back four maintains the same, with their two central defenders dealing with Alvarez, but now their two holding midfielders have access to both the half spaces, and their narrow wide midfielders will also block the fluidity from their wingers and the attacking midfielders from Argentina. Now for France in possession, they started as they usually have done throughout the whole tournament with their asymmetric back four, with this left side having more fluidity. So from here, this allowed Mbappe to play in more central roles and to free up his movement, creating isolation and going a bit more narrow. Rabiot would also add to this movement, as we've talked about and as he's done throughout the whole tournament, creating versatility and playing as a natural number 8. Griezmann would maintain his free role between the lines, favoring the right half space. Argentina would go with a back four that often became much more narrow because of the positioning of Mbappe and tracking his run into a more narrow position, and having DePaul have more versatility in the defensive end now, tracking back and tracking the run of the left-sided fullback for France. Then their midfield took up an asymmetric shape because of this, with Messi and Alvarez as the two central strikers and the players playing highest up the field. Now after France made their tactical changes at halftime, they saw a much more structured back four and a more natural 4-3-3. Griezmann still playing through the right half space, coming from his number 10 position in the defensive phase. Rabiot played a little bit higher up the field, still playing with the height of an 8 between the midfielders of Argentina and allowing Mbappe still to have this freedom between the lines as the center striker. And with the subs from France, they became much more fluid in their front three and were allowed to mount some pressure on Argentina, especially late on, and get control of the game once again. Argentina didn't change their defensive setup at all, and the players still had the same role. We still saw them go with the two central strikers and their lopsided midfield to deal with the threat of Mbappe on the right, to offer 2 versus 1s against him when he would fan out into the wide area, but also to track the run of the fullback and maintain control of the center that Mbappe, Griezmann, and Rabiot could use as partnerships to get between the lines. So let me know what you think of the World Cup final in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.